So this is the painted body of the Hemi Cuda. So we're on part two. This is going to be quite Plymouth heavy, really. Not much of the Coronet to be seen in this section, and this is where the nature of the work changes considerably. Up to now, it's been physical exertion. It's been quite hard graft, but lots of margin for error. You can really do. In the first part, you could pretty much do what you want, and there wasn't really anything irreversible that you could do. It was just a case of just keep going, throw everything you've got at getting these bodies stripped, and in the case of the Coronet, polished. And now it's completely different. Pretty much the exact opposite. There's no real physical exertion required. This is all very gentle and very physically easy to do, but this is where the concentration's got to be dialed up, and you're getting to the point now where you can't get things wrong, because if you do, you're going to have to repeat a couple of previous steps, and those previous steps might include having to repaint the whole thing from scratch. So any mistakes you make at this point could have consequences that, like, obviously aren't really going to be the end of the world, but will result in you having to do quite a bit of work again and waste materials and things like that, because you'd have to repeat some fairly big steps. So what I'm doing here, what I've managed to drag out here for a good 3 or 4 minutes, is this is really, for me, this is just kind of limbering up to because this is the easy bit, if there is an easy bit in this, because I'm just going around the arches. I looked at, I know full well what these E-body Barracudas look like anyway, but I did look at a couple of pictures just to make sure, and yeah, a lot of them do have chrome arch trim. So we're just trying to pick that out. We're using the fine blade just to try and pick that out. You'll notice at one point I kind of sharpened the blade up a bit just by running it through some steel wool, just to make it a bit more keen. A blunt blade will drag more of the paint off than you want, so you've got to keep it keen, and you can just beaver away at it like this and just expose the bare metal underneath, but also when you scrape it, you do make it shine like chrome, and you can build on that as you go on, because you can sand it. And again, using these things always seem to end with those sanding pads that I've got that have been worn down to virtually nothing, but they're the things that polish it up and will make this chrome trim actually look like chrome trim at the end of it all. So I think we're getting towards the end of this. You see, that's, yeah, we've got the pad out already, so that's probably, at this stage, that'll be like 1,000 grit pad. Again, like with the preparation of the bodies, you do alternate between different things, so you can go at it with the blade of the knife, the scalpel. So I suppose it is like a scalpel blade. You can go at it with a scalpel blade for a bit, and then you can go at it with a sanding pad for a bit. I don't know why. I always like to reassemble them sort of halfway through and just see them in this kind of weird half-done state. Ignore it if you want. I mean, it's just a bit of amusement for myself, I think, really. So now I'm going to have a stab at the hard bit, because getting all this stripped back so we can bring out some of these details in the front, it's never I don't know, maybe if you did 1,000 of them it might eventually become an easy task, but I'm going in with the trusty awl just to get the surface broken, just to get some of the paint broken up a bit, because that's probably the best way to start it off, really. Just disturb the surface of the paint and actually start to work some of it off. That noise that you can hear in the background, yeah, that's just some really high-tech equipment that I've got kind of charging up and getting ready to. No, it's the tumble dryer. Try and ignore it if you can. So yeah, just work your way along it like that, and yeah, keep sharpening up the awl with whatever's handy. In this case, I don't know, 180 grit sanding pad or something, but it doesn't matter. Anything just to keep that tip nice and sharp, because again, even though we're just trying to break up the paint surface a little bit and get a kind of an in for some other device to be able to, like such as the scalpel or the or a sanding pad, to be able to do some more work on it. If you leave that blunt, you will break up more paint than you want to. So we're just trying to go along the little gills or teeth or whatever you want to call in this this very intricate grill that they only did for a year for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it was just too unusual for people. So because I know that after this they went back to something that looked like the previous grill, more of a split grill, more of a traditional looking sort of split. It looked quite aggressive looking, still looked good, but this grill was really unusual, and really quite a work of art, I think personally. So we're already at the stage where you can fold over a little bit of this is actually real car body grade, wet and dry. It's 2500 grit or 2000 grit, one of the two. Just that folded over will make a nice little kind of sanding blade, if you want to call it that, so you can get in and get those teeth, get those, like, the sort of chrome surrounds of the metal teeth just brought out. So we're using the scalpel again now just to get the windscreen trim. Pretty much anything from the 70s would have had chrome windscreen trim around it, so you don't even need to look it up really. If it's from this era, you might as well do it. It will have had it, and it'll always make it look. It'll always just elevate the appearance of it a little bit if you can pick this out. Again, this is where you've got to be. This is another point where you've got to be really careful, because it's really easy to drag too much of the paint off or take too much of the paint off, and then you've got a big stupid looking big thick silver windscreen surround, which it wouldn't have had. You want the nice. You've got to remember the scale of these things. So on the real car, it would have only been a very, very thin bit of bright work. So you want that to be to scale. So moving on to the back window now. All credit to Hot Wheels, they do make it very easy for you. They do nicely pick out the back window trim, have it as a nice raised up thing. It's just kind of offering itself up there just to be scalpeled down and sanded and whatever you want. It's you can get at that bit and do your work. And door handles, yeah, again, be careful. This is where you can drag off some extra paint if you really if you're not concentrating. So we're going back onto the arches now. You can just keep, I mean, for me, I've said it before, I work very, very haphazardly. I tend to just do a little bit on one area and then leave that, go to another area, come back to it. It all depends on how you like to do it. You might just want to do it in a completely linear fashion where you just work away at one particular thing until that's done, and then move on to another. This is just how I like to do it. So you see, look, I think I've got like half the grill done there, and I've obviously decided at this point to tackle the other difficult one, which is the rear bumper and that rear panel. Again, that wasn't something I was looking forward to, and what I might have wanted to do, seeing as though, no, it's okay, no, forget that. I thought I'd lacquered it by this point. I haven't. Back onto the front again. So what I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to sand back the paint from the front bumper to just the right point. So it's a combination of sanding and scraping. Yeah, you've got to be really careful here. I'm not gonna make out this is easy. You'll probably need a few attempts. If you've never done this before, you'll probably need a few attempts before you get this bit right. I'm trying to replicate the fact that on the real thing, you'd have had a big chrome bumper like that, and then the grille itself was the same colour as the body, apart from the teeth. The teeth were obviously had a chrome surround, which I'm still trying to scrape out now. And then inside the teeth or gills or whatever you want to call them, that would have been darker. That would have been more grill coloured, if you want to coin a phrase. Yeah, kind of aluminium-y coloured or grey or something. But the actual surrounding the gills would have been body colour, but it ends and I wanted to get it to end just in the right place for the colour bit to end and then the chrome bumper to start. So you can see it's starting to get there now. And see, once you've got a bit more, you scrape a bit away, you sand a bit away, and then that makes it easier to scrape a bit more. So you alternate the different, well, I do anyway, I alternate the different tools around until eventually, hopefully, you end up with something that you wanted. So I think we're just getting to the point where we've actually got something starting to look a little bit like what we want there at the front, especially when you just look at it like that from a kind of top-down angle. We're back onto the arches again. Just, I will say, it doesn't matter how much you do this. It doesn't matter how much of this whittling away that you actually do to bring out the bright work. Not in terms of the quantity of how much you do, unless you really go like ridiculously too far. But you can always keep coming back to it and doing a little bit more, just as long as you never ever make a mistake at any point. Because as soon as you actually make that mistake and you've gone through that bit of paint and it's like, oh, that's it. If you've really gone through it at a bad point where you can't touch it in or cover it up in any way, then yeah, it's got to be stripped and repainted again right from the scratch, and you lose everything. You lose everything. All this stuff I've done at the back so far, that's gone. Everything that we've done at the front with all the teeth, gills, things, whatever, gone. You've just you're literally starting it all again. So I'm just trying to get some of the paint broken off and that kind of chrome strip that goes around the edge at the back, because I'm going to try and do this back end properly like they really were. A mistake that's actually in progress right now as we speak is the fact that I'm doing all this at the back and I'm not getting the black bit picked out now before the lacquer goes on. That will turn out to be something that I wish I'd done, because it would have saved me quite a bit of time. It's not the end of the world. I ended up doing it after the lacquer had gone on. It all turned out all right, but I could have probably saved myself a bit of time if I'd gone on to do it now. But again, I'm trying to do the same thing that I did with the front bumper to make it so that the chrome of the bumper ends and the body colour starts where it should. So it's starting to take some kind of shape at the back now. There's a long way to go still, but we've got some of the lights picked out. Separate sort of rear light cluster and reversing lights on this one. And there we go. Just to reiterate what I've been saying. And then we've got the bumper override as the underneath of the bumper. Because we want, for some reason I didn't want you to see that. And then we're back to the front. Like I say, it's all a bit haphazard, but it all gets there in the end. And then once you've got a certain amount of that bumper exposed, you can start very carefully sanding away on the with the pads as well. That will help. That will get even more paint off. You can be fairly, if you double it over like that and you're very careful how you hold it, you can be fairly precise with the pad. This is not quite as risky as it looks. There's going to be like a kind of chrome surround at the front as well, like a kind of chrome mouth. I don't think all of these had that. Challengers and things like that definitely had it, but the Cuda from this year, I think I've seen some with it. I think I have. But sometimes when it comes to certain details and you're asking yourself whether you should put a certain detail onto one of these castings, and you don't want to think too much about whether the real car had it or not. It's more about whether it'll actually look good on this. If it's going to look stupid and out of place, then don't do it. If it's going to look nice like that, then by all means. So really now it's just going over areas that I've already done. It's kind of all leading up to a countdown because we're not far from this thing being ready to put some lacquer on. So it's you'll just notice a pattern now of just going around doing quick bursts on different areas. There won't be so many sharp tools visible now. It'll be nearly all pads, because all the initial groundwork's been done by the awl or the scalpel blade or whatever else I've had to hand, and it's, like I say, it's just alternating between different pads. If I think a fair bit needs to be taken off that, or if it needs to be it needs any actual sanding, then I'll be using the more vicious grades of pad. If I think most of the sanding's been done and it just needs actually polishing, then I'll be using one of the higher grade ones, just to actually polish the metal and bring it up and make it look more like chrome. And it really, I mean, there I'm using some actual paper. I'm using that 2,500 grit paper just to get a bit out there. There'll probably be the odd bit where I'll return with the scalpel just to get a bit off that I haven't got off before. And it's just a case of just going around it and just seeing what you think needs doing, and just rinse and repeat, so to speak, until eventually you just think, right, it's ready. As with anything else, just keep stopping, having a look, seeing if it's there or not, because you don't want to do this for any longer than you have to. So I think we're there now with this. I would say it's ready for lacquering. Just going around it now just to see, just to always have a little check, just to see if there's anything else you could do, anything else you could improve. Because once that lacquer's on there, it's quite difficult. You see, I've forgotten the gills, so we'll just scrape down there and just pick those out a little bit. It wouldn't have been the end of the world to do those after the lacquering, but there'll be some things that you would find might be quite difficult. So we'll take this outside and lacquer it. It's obviously it's paint that's designed for a real car, as is the lacquer. So just rain the lacquer down on it in short bursts. That'd be the way to get a decent finish. So what's been going on with the Coronet while all this has been happening? I don't think we've seen it once throughout this entire video. Well, we're about to find out. It's done. And there we go. And that brings us to the end of part 2. Thanks.